Hello and welcome to Taiwan Today. I am Natalie So. Taiwan just finished a week of live-fire military exercises to prepare for any attack from China. Is China planning to invade Taiwan? And is Taiwan ready? Well, today I have with me a top strategist in Taiwan, the director of the Institute of International Affairs and Strategic Studies at Danjiang University, Alexander Huang. Dr. Huang, it's great to have you on the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, we just completed a week of live-fire military exercises. One major incident that happened was a crash, the F-16 crash. Do you think this signals that there's a weakness in our Air Force?
Oh, I don't think so, because if we are in uniform long enough, we would know that there are risks in any kind of military activities, especially in the live-fire exercise. Even in usual ordinary training, there are casualties as well. Having said all this, we are regret that there is a loss of very smart and elite pilot and the fighter jet. We hope that this incident would not have a negative impact on the entire exercise.
Well, China has increased its military activity around Taiwan. It's been flying bombers, encircling the island, having live-fire exercises right in the Taiwan Strait. So what do you think, besides intimidating us, is it trying to do? Is it preparing for an invasion?
I think there are at least three layers of observation. The first layer is that China is becoming a great power. Its economic capacity would facilitate a stronger military, both in training and in arms equipment. So they have a very right, like any other country, to perform and exercise their training, to extend its depth of defense. That's first layer. The second layer is that they wanted to show to especially the United States that the so-called regular close-in reconnaissance by the United States forces along the coastlines of China would not be permitted. Before, China could not do it because they did not have the force and the equipment and the capacity. Right now they have new high-tech systems. They can send a signal to the American maritime reconnaissance and saying that please do not get closer to my home. The third layer, of course, is to intimidate Taiwan, using the same geographical area, but practice a different kind of tactical movement or gesture and squeezing Taiwan. Sometimes if Taiwan says something that they dislike, or if there is a improvement of U.S.-Taiwan relationship, then they use that kind of movement to send the message or make their points.
So the likelihood of attack, though, how likely? I mean, some analysts say perhaps they're preparing to attack or reunify by 2020, 2018. Well, 2018 is today.
I think it's a constant issue. We probably have asked the question 10 years ago.
Yeah, for maybe 60 years.
But to be rational, in my personal view, is that China's biggest, largest national objective is the so-called Chinese dream. To fulfill the Chinese dream, China needs to maintain, or at least to do its best to keep a peaceful environment along Chinese borders and maritime area, so they can focus on economic development and their domestic issues. Having a military or armed conflict in China's neighborhood would probably derail or delay the fulfillment of that so-called the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, the Chinese dream. So I think, rationally speaking, China, or at least the top leadership, will try hard not to be drawn into or initiate a armed conflict, alongside its border. So the war across the Taiwan Strait would probably be the worst choice, the worst option for them, because it would be a Chinese fighting Chinese. So that's the part of the reason why that they are so sensitive about the U.S.-Taiwan relationship.
I have heard reports about electromagnetic pulse weapons that they can just out our technology, our computers, and without too much loss of life. Do you think that would be an option for them?
Oh yeah, this is a kind of new technology that we started to look at the turn of the century. Of course, there are the electromagnetic munitions or device can be performed in three ways. One is through ballistic missiles. The other is through long-range guns. The third one would be more small area technical. The specific characteristics of that system is to wipe out your electricity, wipe out your computer system, make everything that plug into a wall malfunction without killing people. So some people said this is this kind of weapon would control one area or defeat one country without mass killing. But it would be kind of sensitive even by international law to use those kind of weapons.
Well, it's still an act of war if that happened.
Oh yeah, yes.
Well, it seems that Xi Jinping is bent, or in China is bent on reunification, whereas I can't imagine Taiwan really agreeing to that as a democratic country. Could you imagine that we would have peaceful reunification?
Well, I think at least Taiwan would insist a true democratic process to make any decision, either for unification or for independence. Nobody and no process like this would be rejected by the general public in Taiwan. I think Xi Jinping does have a kind of unification timetable in the back of his mind, but he did not spell it out. He told our former Vice President Vincent Hsu in Bali, Indonesia, during the APEC Leadership Summit. He said that the political differences across the Taiwan Strait cannot be postponed or through generation and generation, and it must be resolved. But he did not give a timeline. Last year, in the 19th Party's Congress, he somewhat suggested two things, but if we put them together, then we will have a timeline in our mind. He said that the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation has the three timeline. That's 2020, 2035, and 2050. And that's for China's approach to reach the Chinese dream. But however, on the other hand, he said Taiwan would not be excluded. Taiwan should be part of that great rejuvenation. So if we are not that critical academically, we can have a kind of image of 2020, 2035, and 2050. So we need to keep that in mind anyway.
I mean, I'm sure he would want it as his legacy, or anybody, any leader in China, right?
Oh yeah, because his predecessor had all done something unique. Chairman Mao established the People's Republic. Deng Xiaoping started this reform and opening up. And Jiang Zemin took back Hong Kong and Macau. And Hu Jintao had the first meeting with the KMT chair, Lian Zhan. And now it is up to Xi Jinping to create his own legacy in Chinese history.
So do you think that he would use force if we don't agree to it?
Oh yeah, he's a person of no nonsense.
Right.
Yeah,
He's very
I
strong-handed.
had no doubt that if necessary, but he will try. I think he will try to avoid a military solution because both sides of Taiwan Strait will be laughed by so-called foreigners. People say, that's great. You are fighting again against each other. It's just like 2,000 years ago. You guys, the Chinese, you are good at it. Domestic civil war, that's your history. So you are doing the repetitive things again. So I'm trying very hard in my professional life to avoid, to talk to my counterpart in China and talk to my colleagues here and do everything possible to avoid an armed conflict or any killing across the Taiwan Strait.
So you talk with counterparts in China? Who do you talk to?
Oh, we academic, we have so many counterparts because what we said probably doesn't count. But we communicate. I think communication is always important. No matter we have a good relations or we had a hard time, we need to keep the communication channel open to avoid miscalculation.
So what do you gather from your communication with Chinese academics about their intent to invade Taiwan or reunify Taiwan?
Well, there have been always a gap between the general public and the decision-making elite. People in Beijing most of the time would speak very strong, but I don't think that they want their kids to wear a uniform and cross the Taiwan Strait and endanger their life. So I think talk is cheap, but in reality, I don't think that most of the people on the mainland are not interested in seeing a war across the Taiwan Strait.
And what do you think of the United States and its role in cross-strait military relations?
The United States is the only country in the world that can take the pressure from Beijing or to say no to People's Republic and maintain a very unique, very robust relationship even without diplomatic recognition, including arms sales to Taiwan. Other than the United States, no country in the world so far in recent 30 years would endanger their diplomatic relations with Beijing and so weapons to Taiwan. So this has been a unique relationship, and next year would be the 40th anniversary of the derecognition of the United States to the Republic of China. So in the past 39 plus years, I think we have worked very hard through generations of diplomats and government officials to maintain such a relationship so Taiwan can stand and Taiwan can survive and Taiwan can imagine that there still be a future over the horizon.
So it's good to have the U.S. As a
good
friend.
We have no choice actually, Natalie, because especially for the past 2 years, China has shut the doors. There had been no official communication channel, refused to return text messages. So if we have a problem, we would have no way to, solve it. And the door is closing and closing. So in a more childish way, we would say that we got no choice but stick with the United States. But still, I think we should talk to China.
Well, we hope that we do. Well,
Yes.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with the director of the Institute of International Affairs and Strategic Studies at Danjiang University, Dr. Alexander Huang. Thank you for tuning in to Taiwan Today. I'm Natalie So.